Welcome to the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast with psychologist Dr. Doreen Downing. Listen in as Doreen interviews people who felt they didn't have a voice or who suffered extreme speaking anxiety. You'll hear stories about how they struggled to speak up, what they did to find their authentic voice, and the confidence they now feel to speak up and make an impact. If you want to get started right away to find your voice, download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. And now, here is Doreen.
Hi, I'm Dr. Doreen Downing, and I'm host of the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast. In these podcast episodes, I get to interview people, some of them that I've not known yet, and it's an exploration, kind of like sitting down for a cup of coffee with somebody and say, tell me who you are and what was the struggle for you about finding your voice. So today we get to hear from one of my new friends, Leisa Reid. I'll tell you about her in just a moment, but I just want to say hi. Hi, Leisa.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
I'll read your bio. As a speaker who has booked and delivered over 600 talks, Leisa Reid trains entrepreneurs how to get booked and stay booked as speakers. Leisa is the founder of Get Speaking Gigs Now and the CEO of the International Speaker Network. And she's passionate about teaching you how to get your talk ready to rock so that you can get on stage quickly and confidently. And today I know that she will be sharing her number one secret that she uses to get speaking gigs. So hello again, and let's get this started.
I can't wait.
Yeah, well, I always am curious about how we come into this world, and it seems like we're kind of natural speakers. And a lot of us have a little more extroversion energy. A lot of us have a little more holding ourselves back just because we're born with it. But environments either encourage or don't encourage one way or the other. So I'd like to hear, in terms of you thinking back early on about did you have a voice or not, what comes to mind when you think about that puzzle about you and your voice?
Well, there's so many facets to childhood, but a couple of things that stood out to me of why I felt I had a voice. My dad, actually, both my parents were teachers of some capacity.
Oh.
And my dad was very supportive of me being independent. And I always felt like he and I were on the same level. Like he didn't treat me, quote unquote, like a kid in a way. Like he took care of me, but we would always have deep conversations. Even when I was a child, we would have really, I don't know, thoughtful conversations. And so I didn't feel like I was a child who couldn't say what I felt or thought. Now, did I ever have experiences in which that wasn't true? Yes. But I just like a broad stroke, I felt really supported in that way.
I love the sense of a broad stroke because I get you being a curious little one and going something like, Dad, why is the sky blue? And then he would do more than just say, well, it's blue because it always has been blue. And sometimes it's gray and sometimes there's clouds and sometimes it's dark. I mean, just seems like it's the beginning is a question and a curiosity and a response of when you say something or ask something and there was a response, an answer for you.
And he was a curious child himself. And I think certainly curious through his entire adulthood. And so as he was learning things, he would share them in bite-sized pieces to me. He would be studying, just to give a little bit of background, he was a hypnotherapist for most of when I was alive. That was his career for the most part. And so he would be studying NLP and all different kinds of general semantics and talks of subconscious and all these different types of really cool beliefs. And so he would share a couple things with me and he would help me learn how to reframe, or I learned how to hypnotize myself as a little kid when I had a hard time going to sleep or when I was sick. So a different type of childhood, I would imagine. Most people don't have that experience. I, I
Yeah.
had I had some different experiences in that regard.
Well, he obviously valued the inner realms. Oh my gosh. And then to open you up to more of what was inside of you at a very early age. That sounds fabulous. What about your mom?
My parents divorced when I was 2.
Oh,
And so I think a lot of my probably issues with not enoughness or feeling like I couldn't have what I wanted stem from that prelingual experience of just literally not physically having my mom in the same state. So I would imagine as a 2-year-old, I don't remember this, but I would imagine that that would be traumatic, that that would be tough.
yeah.
But my mom moved up to, we're talking Alaska. So it's pretty far away from a lot of places. So my mom moves up to Alaska, and I would go and see her. I would take a plane as a kid, like a 5-year-old by myself. I would go from Fairbanks, Alaska. I'd fly to Anchorage, Alaska, and visit my mom in the summers or Christmas or spring break, things like that. So I always had a relationship with her and a close relationship, but untraditional, right? A different type of relationship.
Yeah. And there's something about when I just realized how you are as somebody who is able to probably travel around easily and with all of the speaking gigs that you must do before COVID, probably. And this whole sense of, well, your mom is there, she's at a distance, and all you have to do is to do something to make the connection. I'm imagining that will show up in your personality later on in life too. So, wow, what a different origin story that is.
Yeah, we all have something different about us, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah. So with your dad, I get that, oh, gee, you have a voice. You could ask and you can inquire and you are heard. That's
yeah.
really fabulous. And I won't go into the details about what that separation was like, but like you say, probably there was some sense of loss or something.
Yeah, it was so non-cognitive because,
Yes.
it happened at 2 years old. So me growing up, it just is what it was. It wasn't like
Yes.
I ever remembered them being together or remembered living with my mom. I remember just this is how life is. So kind of like the fish in the water. I'm not noticing the water. And that was just how we did it.
Yeah. Did you have siblings or do you have siblings?
I do and I don't.
There you go again. Oh my goodness. This is really wonderful to get the yes and well maybe and all at once. Let's hear it.
I am my mom's only child,
Uh-huh.
and my dad remarried. He married his second wife, had a daughter same age as me, and then they had a son, and that was my family unit, like my nuclear family unit for most of my life from age 5 to 14. Then they got divorced. My dad married eventually another, but by the time he got married, I was already an adult. So my stepmom now has children, but we were not ever in a traditional sibling type relationship.
Family unit. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why I was like, oh gosh, I don't know. It depends on it
Yeah.
depends on. So I consider myself having actually I consider myself, to make it even more complicated, Doreen, I now have 2 sisters because my brother transitioned to
Oh, wow.
female. So I used to say I
Uh-huh.
would have a sister and a brother, but now I say I have 2 sisters.
Oh, I just want to keep on going, getting to know you. This is so fascinating to have a human being right in front of me, a beautiful human being, by the way, and
Oh,
just
thank
you're
you.
radiating. You've got a really wonderful heart, I can tell. And then already what you've just said to us around your comfort with telling your story. I know you wrote to me, and I understand that actual public speaking, which is one of your expertise now and what you help people with, wasn't actually a real challenge for you. It seemed like you were pointing to more of the personal conversations or relationships. So we can go in either direction.
For public speaking, a lot of times people think all public speakers are looking for attention or need to be the center of attention or whatever, want to have that spotlight. I don't consider that my reason for doing it. It's more about teaching and providing transformation. So if someone said to me, oh, go speak on something that you have no idea about and just make them laugh, I would be terrified. Like I would not want to just go up there for no reason. But if I'm prepared and I know I'm going to be providing value, then yes, I have no problem being up there. I actually love it so much. It is one of my greatest joys. But on the personal side, one of the pieces that I started to learn about myself was finding my own voice and being comfortable actually not even stating what I wanted, but knowing what I wanted.
Ooh.
It took me to stop the clock and really go, okay, wait, hold on a second. I remember I had a therapist and she said, I want you to write a list of things, your needs and desires, your physical, emotional, and spiritual needs, is what she said. Here I am. I'm a graduate. So, I have a master's degree. I didn't just fall off the turnip truck. And I said, I don't understand the assignment. And she said, well, I want you to write down. She repeated it. Your physical, spiritual, and emotional needs. Just write them down. And I'm like, I don't know what you mean. What are you talking about? I was that blind to those parts of me. I had gone through a divorce myself, which is also why I was seeing a therapist. And I really had to sit down and think, what do I want? What do I need? And I was able to write them down finally. Finally, I made myself figure it out. And that was a really big shift for me because it was me actually being aware of what I wanted or needed was like the first step. So that's where I lost my voice, not only externally, but internally.
Well, that brings up my curiosity of the comfort in saying hello, especially if you had something. But how was it, especially given that your father was somebody who valued inner awareness? Have you ever asked that question? Speaking of a therapy question.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's your wheelhouse. So
It was just like, how did she get to have comfort in one sphere and not so comfortable in another? But here we go again, the contradiction that exists for you in what I've been noticing so far today. So,
yeah, I think I have thought about that. And there's probably multiple answers. The one that comes to the top of my mind right now, my dad, and this was important for him growing up, he had to be very independent given his circumstances, single mom. And then here I am, he's a single dad, and he taught me how to be really independent. And just like you could say too much water and you'll drown, too much independence, it's like, don't rely on anyone else because you can figure it out. You can only rely on yourself. I don't think he said that directly, but just really instilled independence in me. So for me to ask for something from somebody or be open to receive something from someone was uncomfortable.
And that's more of the personal, relational, well, without uncovering or exploring more, that begins to help me understand how somebody is so comfortable in one realm, but less so in the other. I know it helps me think about my own story without going into it deeply, but I was asked a similar question, not by a therapist, but by a group of friends who were upset with me, and they kept saying, well, how do you feel? And I don't know. I don't know what that is. What does feeling feel like?
Right? I can relate to that.
And so I guess with independence, there's a lot of doing, figuring things out. With being, it's a different realm.
Yes.
The exploration or the voice that comes from, I can do this, I can figure it out, is different than this is what I feel. This is what I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. Had to learn how to feel.
Yes. And Lisa, express it, right?
Yes. Yes.
Right. Well, I want to move on. I have some other questions I'd like to explore, but I have to take a quick break, so that I can give people the opportunity to learn more about how they can get my 7 secrets to fearless speaking. We'll be right back.
If you want to get started right away to find your voice, download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com.
Hi, we're back now with Leisa Reid, who is fascinating. I am so already intrigued by Lisa's story and where she grew up, how she grew up, and the split in her life that happened between her parents and how young she was. And yet it became something that brought her to an independence that she could count on herself to figure things out. But when it came to, ooh, how do I feel? How do I express something within me to another? How do I ask for something? I don't want to say weakness, but what was it? It was less developed. Let's just put it that way. And obviously you've developed it, because look at us, conversational here, both of us. So Lisa, I said I wanted to ask more. And what would you say when it comes to you finding your voice, whatever realm we're talking about? What was the greatest contribution? What do you think helped the most besides that?
Yeah. Well, I dove right into some personal development workshops right after my divorce, because I knew enough mentally. I knew enough about the subconscious. And I thought, wow, I really missed some stuff here. I obviously have some blind spots, because I probably wouldn't be divorced if I didn't have blind spots. I didn't want to repeat the same patterns left unaddressed. I knew that would happen as well. Dove head on into some personal development workshops and really started to uncover some of my own limiting beliefs, and trying to be more aware of them and trying to catch them in the moment, and shifting and increasing my consciousness around relationships and my own interpersonal well-being. And I ended up working for the company, which they wanted someone to help with business development through speaking. And so I was actually not only a client of theirs for many years, but then I worked for the company for 8 years as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big, so was it one thing? No, it was like a million workshops, Dr. Doreen. It was about a million workshops. No.
Yeah. Getting my PhD in psychology was more in those rooms where I did, let's say, psychodrama and journaling. Those were much more self-growing than sitting in a class learning about Freud and
Yeah, when you
very,
really get intricate about, or I would really get intricate about a thought or a belief that I could catch. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like when I wrote my first book, I remember wanting to be an author, but I caught myself one day thinking, it's going to be a lot of work. I have to find something. Like I'm kind of doing this little internal grumble. And I went, oh my gosh, I just heard that.
yes.
And I immediately shifted it. The next day, I'm hosting my International Speaker Network meeting. A woman walks in and she said, I'll do all the work. All I need is a chapter. It's really easy. Who's interested? And I'm like, girl, yes. And so when I shifted my thinking, I would see immediate results. Usually, not always, but that would be one example where I saw immediate results.
You just gave a really beautiful, deep piece of wisdom right there. Change your mind and be surprised at what shows up, maybe in the next moment or a few days, but it changing the inside, it feels like, is what the message I just heard from you there. Let's move forward then, because obviously all those workshops helped you become the word that you used earlier today, aware, self-aware, and you just demonstrated it a second ago with your example. Let's move into how you found yourself on stages, because you said to me that it was not until like you were 40.
I got hired by that company when I was 40. This is back in 2013. The job was go out and speak as much as you can and bring clients into the workshops. So that's what I did. And my first year, I booked 83 speaking engagements. And I would go out, it was all in person. And I live in Orange County, California. So there's lots of places to go. I didn't have to get on a plane to do that. I would just drive places. And so I would do that. And I would bring clients in each month into the different workshops and then do it all over again the next year. So when they told me you get to teach about something that you love that works, and that's your job.
Because you've been a participant of it.
Yeah,
right?
I already believed in it. And then the fact that I would get to go and speak about it to me was like a dream come true. My bachelor's and master's degree are in speech communication. So it's not like a real big leap. I knew that I would be really good at it.
Yes. Oh, fabulous. Well, then let's move into what you do currently. And you got a book,
Sure.
and for those who are not watching, I can see it. There's a book in the background.
I had started that organization, the International Speaker Network. It was a different name at the time, but I started that in 2013 as well, because I knew enough about how I operate. And I thought, oh gosh, I don't want to do this all by myself. I bet there's an easier way to get on more stages, learn how this whole thing works, whole speaking thing works. And so I surrounded myself with other speakers. And over the years, they would ask me for help all the time. They would say, Leisa, how did you get so many bookings? How did you do that? What are you doing? What are you saying to people? How does it work? And one day, this gentleman, a member of our community, we're talking on the phone, and he said, Leisa, tell me about your speaking coaching business. And I said, oh, I don't have one, but thanks for asking. I didn't know what else to say. And we finished our call. And I had that conversation with myself. Sometimes we have that come to Jesus moment. And I said, I am never saying that again. And I went home and I bought the URL, which is getspeakinggigsnow.com. And within 2 weeks had my website fully developed and up with a webinar and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized people need help with that. They want to be speaking, but they don't know how to actually figure out where should they be speaking, who would say yes to them, why does it all make sense, how does it all work? And so I thought, well, I guess that's what I'm here to do.
Oh, yes. Yes. And the response to the question, hey, do you have a speaking
Coaching business? Yeah.
And it feels like when you were thinking about doing a book, both times I heard that you just shifted yourself, your thought, and that then within moments, pretty much it all landed for you.
There's something so powerful about making a decision. Yes.
Yes.
And I'll say that with my clients. I'm like, we are going to gather and make decisions about what your message is going to be, how your soul's wisdom is going to be expressed, how your brilliance can come out. And when we give that space and then make a decision, I go put the stake in the ground, like, this is what I stand for. Man, that feels really good. Yeah. It's very empowering.
Yes, I think that's almost where I'd like to leave, because we're out of time, but I do want to open the floor one more time to see what might want to come in terms of a message. And for sure, let us know how to find you. It'll be in the show notes. Is it the one that you mentioned before, the website? Yeah. And if any of your listeners want 5 top tips to get more speaking gigs, if that's your jam, you can go to getspeakinggigsnow.com/tips. So take you right there. Free tips for you. Yeah. My words of wisdom, I mean, often come from my dad. When I think of him, he's not in a physical body anymore, but he would say, do what makes your heart sing. And that advice has never let me down. Oh, let me just sit with that for a second here. Do what makes your heart sing. That's beautiful. I mean, I feel like I could do a whole podcast just on that phrase with you. Just unravel what that actually means. We have to know we have a heart, like when you had to go to the inner discovery and feeling the power of the heart. And then what is the sound of singing from the heart? And is it actually a doing, or is it actually a being? So you can see me, I'm already just going on what you've just given me.
I love it. I love it.
So folks, you can tell I've had a wonderful time today with Leisa, and I know you have too. And she's given this wonderful tip, sing from your heart. Thank you, Leisa.
Thank you for being with us today for this episode of Find Your Voice, Change Your Life. Each person Doreen interviews shares what has helped them find their voice. You can learn from these guests and find your voice so you can be confident to speak up and speak out. And remember to download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. We hope you enjoyed the show and will return next time. Until then, goodbye for now.